What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Konoha used Naruto as a weapon, but he fell in love with their assassin? If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comment. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. So let us start the story.
It was an average day in the Hidden Leaf Village with a calm breeze under the sunny sky. The village is one of the most beautiful places in the entire world. At least to the young 8-year-old boy wandering the streets. His name is Naruto, just Naruto, as he is an orphan and has been as long as he could remember. Not that is an uncommon thing in the village after the Kyuubi attack 6 years ago. There were many orphans in the village after that day. There is, however, something very special about this young boy. He has a very special ability called eagle vision. A skill that only his family has ever had, not that he knew that. His eyes are sharper than most people, and his observation skills are only rivaled by the smartest people in the world, allowing him to see and piece together anything with only small hints. He has seen many things in the world with this skill, as he can see the world in different colors. Most people were shown to be blue, but on occasions he saw some red, but only when a young red-haired girl a few years younger than him walks by. They would mumble things about a demon bitch whenever she was near. The thing that confused him though is she was outlined in a whole new color. She was gold. Naruto never really talked to this girl although he was highly curious about her and he wanted to. What Naruto spent his time doing was exercising or reading, and he was incredibly intelligent for an 8-year-old boy. He loved to discover things and learn about them. He also loved to go running and jumping and climbing, and it showed. He was a very healthy young boy with bright red hair that was very spiky with beautiful blue eyes, and if you saw him running, you would be surprised at how fast and how far he could run. He could also climb up just about anything without chakra and not fall. Naruto was now walking around an area he hasn't really discovered and was looking around in wonder, just trying to find something new, and he was getting a strange feeling around a certain area. He noticed a large boulder easily 3 times bigger than a full-grown man that was covered in moss and surrounded by trees. It was a really well-hidden area, but the really interesting thing was a symbol embedded into a flat side of the boulder. What was more interesting was that it was glowing when he activated his eagle vision. He quickly became excited and went over to it and touched it experimentally, but he got a cut on his finger and let out a gasp of surprise as a drop of blood landed on the symbol and a door opened up. He eagerly began to go down a wide but short amount of steps leading to a wooden platform in between the cave walls. On both sides of the walkway there were perfectly round marble pillars holding up the ceiling with red flags on them with the same type of symbol that opened the door in the first place that Naruto thought was cool. It was a triangle that curved at both of the bottom ends and that stopped moving in just before closing the triangle. What was strange to him though is that some really old torches began to light up and illuminate the whole room. What was at the end of the walkway was a very large room that had smaller hexagonal-shaped support beams going up into a flat stone ceiling with other horizontal beams connecting the supports. There were brick walls all around the room and it was filled with rugs on the hard ground. There were also a lot of tables and chairs in the room. Naruto looked around in awe and also saw some open archways leading into other rooms and went to the nearest one on the left. What was in there was an armory filled with weapon racks on all the walls. Each of the spots were filled with all kinds of different swords he had never seen before. On the left side of that room, there were throwing knives in a massive quantity. Each one shined like silver and were beautifully crafted. He left that room and went on to a room that was connected to it on the right side and entered and found armor of different kinds on some mannequin torsos. There were also some white robes over to the side in a closet area that he found really cool looking. He also found some small blades, hidden blades, in a box with the schematics to make more in that closet too. There was a fireplace in this room as well in the middle of the 2 archways leading into the main room. On the opposite side of the weapon room and to the left of the clothing room, was a library that was filled with many bookshelves that had some really old-looking books and some trinkets. There were some arches in the room to support the ceiling and had the same flags from the entryway pillars on them. Wow, this is the most amazing place I have ever seen, was the first thought that the 8-year-old could come up with after looking around. He truly felt something in the back of his mind telling him that he belonged in here and he has always wanted to belong somewhere. Konoha was still recovering from the Kyuubi attack and no one was adopting at this time because of that. So he liked the feeling he got from being in this new place. The hideout is the same as the one in Assassin's Creed Revelations except for it just being hidden in a boulder and not an actual house. I also added some things like the closet full of robes and armor, and I had the whole armory filled with the different weapons. He went back to the library, as he was the most interested in that, and saw on the middle of the desk that had a single candle. There was a scroll sitting on top of a hard leather-bound book that looked like a journal. His high amount of curiosity winning him over, he went over to the desk, sat on the chair behind it and began to read the scroll. To my dear son Naruto, I am sorry if you are now reading this, because that would mean that I am no longer alive. Me and your mother had to leave you in the care of the hospital staff as we had to leave to fight off the Kyuubi. First of all, me and your mother want you to know that even though we left you at a young age of 2, we still love you with every fiber of our being. The second is more from me than your mother, but I want you to follow the creed of our great ancestors, who had fought for peace in the world far before chakra was given to the great sage of 6 paths. We are known as the Assassin Order. We dedicated our lives to fighting off the threat of our greatest enemies. Enemies as old as we are, the Templars. We had bases like the one you are in, all over the world, and you are the descendant of many great assassins, and I had hoped for you to lead the order when I had retired, but it didn't turn out that way. We fight in the darkness to serve the light, exterminating all evil we can. The Templars wish to reshape the world through force, power, and slavery. They would rule for their own benefits and kill any who stand in their way. The assassins fight to stop them, spreading the ideas of freedom, individuality, and ultimately peace. If you are reading this, then unfortunately you are the last Konoha assassin. Our brotherhood was annihilated from the Kyuubi attack. We could not sit by and let the beast kill all those innocents. I hope you can understand this and follow our example and live life with no regrets. I will not be telling you everything about the Templars that you may face. Me and your mother feel that I have given you enough. You can just read about them, as learning your own skills and knowledge will be better than just being told. There are many books and scrolls in the library here that can help you with everything you might need. We have a vast amount of information from the time before chakra as well as the things me and your mother collected. We left our money sealed into an area where only a person with our vision will find it, in our blood also. It is yours and any future brothers and sisters you invite into our creed. We left a certain jutsu behind for you to use, as it will speed up your training. Be warned now though, it is highly taxing on your chakra reserves and you should not use it before bringing up your reserves. It is called the Kage Bunshin Jutsu, and while our family was gifted with vast reserves, it is always better to be safer than be sorry. You should study Fuinjutsu as well, as some of our best abilities are used through seals. You could call it a specialty of our family. Read up on some of our more famous relatives as well. Look for the names Altair ibn Lahad, and Ezio Auditore da Firenze, and Desmond Miles. They were the most famous ancestors we have. There is also Connor Kenway, also known as Radananaki, Tun, and his own grandfather, Edward Kenway. Edward isn't someone we want you to emulate, as he spent most of his life as a pirate and only towards the end found his way, but you may be inspired by this. Connor fought for his people first and foremost, so I think you would like him and his ideals. The last thing we want to say is that we love you with all our being and hope you do not need to read this. Your loving parents, Michiru and Kanogo Uzumaki. Naruto's eyes watered as he read the scroll over and over again. He had finally found out whom his parents were and that they really loved him. He is sad that he was just a little too young to remember them, but in their honor he set his eyes on his newest goal, to become the Grand Master to the Assassin Order. He would become the greatest assassin that there ever was. I made them Uzumakis because a lot of people think that the Uzumakis are related to the Sage of 6 Paths, and the path my idea was headed was that Naruto is related to the Sage, so I pretty much had to make him an Uzumaki, although they are not closely related to Kushina. More like his parents are distant cousins. They really won't play an important role in the story at all. I will probably only mention them a few times. He wiped his tears quickly and looked to the journal on the table that was under the scroll. He opened it to the first page and read a short summary and was surprised to find the name Desmond Miles under it. It read, "In this journal that I made is all the things I did in my life, and it is filled with my experiences. I had this in mind for my own ancestors to follow in my stead, as in my life I had found that information is preserved much better than I expected. I had spent what feels like a lifetime keeping the for peace, and I hope that whoever is reading this will be able to keep it intact. Read this story, the story of my life, and remember it forever. Desmond Miles. Naruto vowed to remember the story of his ancestor to honor him and quickly turned the page to the beginning. This is from Desmond's point of view. There was a great tragedy that started the very world that we know today. I like to call it the Great Event. I was forced to make a choice, the hardest choice that could ever be pushed down on someone. A solar flare was going to come and wipe out most of the Earth with its intense heat, and I had two options. I could either help a mad spirit woman named Juno, who was one of the people we call the ones who came before. Or the second option, I could let the world burn and become a sage to the people and lead them in their time of need. I was afraid. I knew the right thing to do would be to give up my life and to save the world. But Juno would just force her control on them, and I was told from Minerva that I would bring peace. I knew that if I helped Juno, the woman who was locked away by her people for conspiring against them, she could just imprison the world, and this went against the order that I fought to protect. I made the choice. I would lead the people into a new time of peace. Through this, I was gifted with a special power, and new and more powerful eyes, and I would begin to spread my teachings throughout the land. Chakra. However, Juno was infuriated. She had worked for countless years trying to be freed by me. So, in her anger she spent another 25 years and used up the rest of her power and life force and created the beast that we came to know as the Jubi, the 10-tailed beast. I had spent my time mastering this new power, this chakra, along with the new eyes I had received, the Rinnegan. I knew that I was ready. I could not fail, because if I did, the world I had spent so much time helping to raise again would be destroyed. I would not allow any more innocent people to be killed. I went into battle with an idea in my mind. If a powerful spirit like Juno could be sealed into a small sphere, then why couldn't I use my new abilities and lock away the Jubi into myself? I would gladly make the sacrifice. And so I did. I became a container for this entity, and was hailed as a god. I had never gotten quite used to that though. I just thought I was a normal man. I had spent my time traveling and spreading chakra in hopes it would be accepted and cherished. I had two sons in my time, the oldest gifted with my eye abilities, the middle child, my body abilities, and the youngest, my knowledge. On my deathbed I knew that I had to choose my successor. Either my oldest son, who believed that peace should be through force, or my younger son who believed it should be through love. The choice was obvious to me. My younger son was chosen. I left them to their own devices, as I knew what would be happening to me upon my death. The beast would be released. I had to be alone for that, and I had the idea to divide the power into 9 separate beings, and seal the husk of the 10 tails into the moon. As I write this, I am already fully prepared to finish what I had started, and am now sitting in this chair in this hideout that I had made, where hopefully my descendants will find, as I haven't told my sons of my past deeds. I had hoped that assassins would no longer be needed, but if the time ever arises, then I have faith that this will be found, will hopefully be used properly. Safety and peace be upon you, brother or sister. My name is Desmond Miles. I am an assassin, and this is my story. Naruto could not believe what he was reading and had to put the book down. His young mind was furiously trying to comprehend what he just read, and that was only the beginning of the book. He had just read the words of a person hailed as God by the ninja world, the so-called Sage of 6 Paths. It was too much for him, and he had to save the rest of the book for another day, and he quickly went back to the main room and sat down to rest for a while. After a good couple of hours of rest, he began to think about what his parents had written about the hidden spot and went to find it, as he was really curious about it. He had looked around and quickly found a book in the library that was glowing with his eagle vision. It was a black book and didn't look any different from any other book, and so he pulled on it. The bookshelf on the far back side of the wall started to move to the right, vanishing behind the wall. This led to a new pathway him down another fairly long pathway. At the end of this pathway were some statues that looked like they were just carved, although he imagined they were very old. The room itself was round, and there was a rounded set of stairs leading down to these statues. He activated his eagle vision and saw a glowing area under the center of the room and assumed this was where the money was hidden, but he was more curious about the statues. There were 3 men on the left side and 3 women on the right side. In the middle was another man that had a very nice set of armor in front of it that was locked behind a gate. He went to the left and looked at the first statue. It had the name Altair ibn Lahad on the marble base under the statue along with the date that he lived in, 1165 to 1257. Next to his statue moving to the right was the second statue with the name of Ezio Auditore da Firenze with the dates 1459 to 1524. The next statue was another man by the name of Ratananaki, Tun with the date of 1756, and the last part was chipped off and unable to read. Three of my ancestors, Naruto thought to himself in wonder as he gazed upon them with awe. He then went to the other side and began to look at the female statues. On the opposite side of the male statues were three females, and the farthest one on the right had the name Tokusenju and had the date 19 to 98. The next statue to the left of that one had the name of Mito Uzumaki with the date 72 to 155. The next statue to the left and last one had the name of Kushina Uzumaki with the date of 140 to 165. Two of these are Uzumakis then, and the first is a Senju. Although I had read somewhere that the Senju and Uzumaki are distant relatives. Thought Naruto as he also looked at these statues in wonder. In the middle of the room with the special armor was the last statue that stood on a taller base than all the others. Above the statue was a title that Naruto saw and was not very surprised at. It read, "The Sage of Six Paths." Naruto looked down to see the name that would be there. The name read Desmond Miles, 1987 to 75. I had the idea to start at year 1 after the solar flare event and the beginning of chakra, so that's why the dates for the ninja and the date of Desmond's death are like that. Naruto has been living in the assassin's hideout for about 3 months now and has begun reading anything that he could while he was there. He has changed very little in looks but a lot in his mind. He has matured greatly from the teachings of the assassins who came before him, and he had gained a new outlook on life in the process. Today was the day where he was going to venture out for a bit and try to discover why the red-haired girl he had seen in the village before was treated the way she was. He had begun to gather that she was an Uzumaki due to her bright red hair, and he wanted to get to know her better. He now wore the gray training robes of the assassins and had his 2 hidden blades on his arms and a brown belt over a crimson-red sash on his hips. He quickly left his hideout at the end of the day to search for clues of the young girl that was treated very badly. "What is this?" A soft murmur came from an old man that had happened to spot Naruto in the village. "There's no doubt about it, those are assassin training robes, but I thought that I was the last of the Brotherhood." "Interesting." The man seemed completely harmless, dressed simply in a white kimono top with red trim with a beaked hood under a conical straw hat and black shinobi pants. The man then began to hobble behind the young boy in the training robes of the assassins. Naruto's first spot he thought to look for the young girl was the Konoha orphanages that are in the village, as there were many orphans and he never saw her with anyone with her, so he began his search using what stealth he had gotten from his training and reading. It took him about 3 hours to find the correct orphanage, but he finally found the young red-haired girl and he went to the window of her room to look closer. What he saw was not what he expected and it made him very angry. Sniff, sniff. The sounds of small sniffles and chalked-back sobs could be heard, deep within the small room unfit for any living person. It was the attic of the orphanage Naruto had found. He could see the form of the small red-haired child sitting on a mattress with no frame to keep it up. She was about 6 years old from what he guessed, and tears were running down her cheeks. She had violet-colored eyes and her red hair had looked really dirty, almost making it brown. Did she even bathe in the last 3 months since I saw her? Naruto thought to himself as he continued his observations. On her face though was one thing that would make the majority of Konoha's citizens recognize and soon become hateful towards her for. She had some faint whisker-like marks on her cheeks. Her little hand went up to one of her cheeks that was red from what looked like a recent slap she received. She flinched in pain as her hand touched the stinging spot. Now the girl was smart, not a genius, but she was smart enough to know that everyone in the village seemed to loathe her very existence. She continued to sob however, and in this moment, even through her racking sobs, did she hear something. A soft, almost silent, thump, yet with her unusually high hearing she heard it. She stilled and slowly she peeked through her arms only for her violet eyes to widen before she covered herself in her blankets. This person that had come into her room looked to be an older boy. How much older though, she couldn't tell. She watched the boy with his gray robes hiding his body and a hood shadowed his face. "Who are you? Please don't hurt me," she pleaded under her covers, hoping that the boy wouldn't hurt her. "I'm not going to hurt you at all." Why would I do that? Naruto asked her calmly and kindly, making her lower the covers from hiding her face in disbelief. She could hear the honesty in his voice and somehow she could feel that she could trust him. But everyone is mean to me and they always call me names and glare at me, the girl said to him while wiping her tears away from her eyes. Well, I wouldn't do something like that. My name's is Naruto Uzumaki, by the way. What's yours? She looked wide-eyed a bit for a second at his last name but responded anyway. I'm Natsuki Uzumaki. That's cool, we have the same last name, Naruto. Naruto just chuckled. Yay, it looks like we do. She really didn't know why she felt so comfortable with this boy because all she could see was a small smile on his face as the hood shadowed the rest of his head. Her thoughts were interrupted though as a small rumble could be heard between the two. Looking down, the gray-robed boy saw the embarrassed flush and sheepish smile on Natsuki's whiskered face. Sorry. I'm a little hungry, she said with a nervous expression, not knowing what else to say. How long has it been since you've eaten last, Natsuki-chan? He asked while his voice did carry a slight edge to it that the young girl didn't pick up on while the boy's eyes were on the red mark on her cheek. Natsuki on the other hand looked down shyly as she answered him with a blush as she had never been called with a chan before. Well. I tried to get something to eat because I only had some gross soup that they gave me. That was about all I ate and I tried to ask for some more food but the matron smacked me and threw me up here again saying I didn't deserve any more food. The red-haired girl mumbled with her face hidden further into her knees. By doing this, she missed the narrowing of the boy's eyes. Why would she be treated this badly? This is supposed to be the friendliest village out of all the hidden villages. Well, either way I have to help her as everyone deserves to be treated with respect and kindness. I will have to look into this later, I'm sure. Naruto thought to himself. I see, he said to her as calmly as he could although he was quite angry. Well, I will go get you some food then, he said while patting her on the head, and she looked at him wide-eyed and confused as to why he would help her. Why are you helping me? I hardly even know you, she questioned as nicely as she could because she really did want the food. Well, everyone deserves kindness. In fact, my order has dedicated their lives to finding the truth of existence and also to spread peace to all the lands, he said simply while her eyes shined with wonder. What order? She asked confused while tilting her head cutely. Naruto just chuckled at her thinking she was really cute. I'm sure that you will find out at a later time. Now I'm going to get you some food, okay? He said while he jumped out the window, missing her cute pout at his exit. Only a few minutes passed since Naruto left, but Natsuki was already feeling both nervous and sad as she was alone again. She had already connected to the kind boy who had seemingly appeared out of nowhere and genuinely wanted to help her. She just hoped that he would come back to her and bring her some food as she was really hungry. Sometime later, that to Natsuki felt like forever, she heard the sound of the small window in her attic open. When she heard it, she instinctively hid under her ripped and thin bedding. In doing so, she missed Naruto with a plate full of food in his arms. He walked quietly towards her bed almost without a sound as he was just beginning his training. He frowned when he saw her hiding under her sheets, and even from where he was he could see her trembling. Silently, the robed hooded boy knelt at her bedside and gently spoke so he didn't scare her. Natsuki-chan, it's okay. I brought you that food that I promised you. The young girl had then stopped her trembling and slowly peeked a violet eye from under her sheets. Only when she saw the shadowed face of the older boy did she come out from under her sheets as she felt safe. When her eyes landed on the food at his side, her pretty eyes widened. There was some fruit, along with a ham sandwich and some vegetables, and to drink there was some milk. Naruto quickly put the food in front of her and she quickly dived right in, eating like she hadn't eaten in days. Naruto then slowly picked up the fruit and cut it, saying, "Now eat up," as he lifted the cut fruit to her while Natsuki pouted and blushed slightly at knowing she was being fed. I'm a big girl, Ibane. Quickly, she just smiled as she ate in a comfortable silence as she was fed from her mysterious Tenchi, her angel. After eating all the food and drinking the glass of milk, she started to have a drowsy expression on her face, making Naruto think she was really cute. She then let out a small adorable yawn before she looked to her new gray-robed friend and saw the slight quirk of his mouth, which she only returned with a wide and warm smile. Thank you, Naruto-kun, she said in a shy, almost meek tone with a blush. Looking at the robed boy, she saw him tilt his head slightly before he smiled, the most perfect smile she had ever seen, and she suddenly felt all warm and safe inside. She heard him speak softly, but she could only sigh in comfort when she felt his hand run through her hair gently. "You're welcome, Natsuki-chan, and remember you're not alone anymore, and if you ever need me, I will help you in any way I can. Now, I have to go. Have a good night's sleep, Natsuki-chan," he said in a soothing manner to where the little girl could only give a soft nod as her head went down to her pillow. "I'll see you again soon, Natsuki-chan," he said quietly to the girl and quickly jumped out the small window, not seeing her smile and blush as she wasn't asleep just yet. "Naruto-kun," is all she could think, and she slowly fell asleep. This village has been corrupted to the very core of its foundations if a young girl is treated like that. I am going to protect her from now on, though. I swear on the creed I will help her. Naruto thought to himself as he made his way back home. That boy is very interesting, and it seems like he knows the creed quite well. The old man thought as he calmly watched the boy leaving the orphanage. He couldn't see what he saw up there, but his strong hearing let him form his own picture, and he had a lot to think about. However, he just followed the boy as quickly as he could, hoping to speak to him. Naruto, on his walk to his new home, had felt that he was being followed and activated his eagle sense and turned to look around and saw the old man that had followed him. He saw that the old man was marked blue and relaxed a bit, but he didn't notice the wide eyes of the man. Is that eagle vision? He thought in awe, as only the founding fathers of the Assassin Brotherhood had those eyes and only people of their blood could ever have them. I can't believe that descendants of the true assassins live today. He thought in awe and knew that he had to help the boy. Who are you? He heard the boy ask in calmly while. My name is Taka Shizu. He responded as he approached the boy. I am a master assassin and I would like to aid you, he said, and saw the boy's eyes widen in surprise. A master assassin, so this presence I'm feeling is what a true master can achieve. Incredible. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and I have discovered my lineage not too long ago. I have been reading and exercising as much as I could since then. But let's talk somewhere more quiet, he said as he and the man walked towards the assassin headquarters. On the way down, Taka was quite impressed at what he had seen of the hidden location. Only someone with eagle vision could have discovered this location, leaving that person to share its whereabouts with only those they trusted. This was a perfect base for the assassins. So, what is it that you wanted to help me with exactly? Naruto questioned politely, hoping for training, but he didn't want to just demand things from a master. Being a master assassin of the Brotherhood, I know many things that I could teach you. Your eagle vision is what made the assassins so great. Granted, only people of your bloodline have ever been able to, or will be able to achieve it. Your ancestors knew this and formed training techniques to hone the senses of other assassins so they could get as close to the effects of your eyes as possible. Basically, your eyes give you the shortcut of all assassin sensing techniques. He explained calmly while Naruto listened, although he had read some things about that, but it was more interesting to hear the wizened old man tell him these things. So my eyes were what formed the training principles of all other assassins in the past? He asked in awe. Yes, but it will take more than senses to make you a great assassin. You must learn to fight and many other things. These are what I can teach you, young Uzumaki, he said, and was very happy that the boy wanted to learn, as his family was what started the Assassin Brotherhood and made their creed. He truly wished to help the boy restore the Brotherhood. We fight, bargain, manipulate, and kill to ensure what little peace and justice in this world is maintained from the shadows, but total freedom and peace is our ultimate goal. It is a life of pain, suffering, and hardships. But you do not care for such dangers, do you? The master assassin asked, already seeing in the eyes of the boy his determination and willpower. There was no hesitation in his reply. Hi, he said with a determined smile. Good, then I will teach you, but you must understand that the life of an assassin is a long, difficult, and painful journey. It is filled with suffering and strife, and you will see things that will test your limits, question your morals, and answer horrifying truths you may not want to learn. You do all this so that the innocents of this world may live freely and in peace. So I ask you again, Naruto Uzumaki, do you truly wish to become an assassin? Hi, I want to be an assassin, Naruto said after thinking a bit about his decision. He knew it would be difficult, but assassin blood ran through his veins and he truly wanted to restore the Brotherhood and follow in his parents' footsteps and the footsteps of his ancestors. Very well. I will train you, Naruto Uzumaki. I will train you to be an assassin of the Brotherhood. Taka said seriously. 2 years had passed since Naruto's training to become a true assassin, and yet, much of it was a blur. Under Taka's tutelage, Naruto studied many academic fields including language, philosophy, science, logic, the arts, leatherworking, herbalism, cooking, tailoring, even some blacksmith work, and mechanical engineering. The master assassin reasoned that such skills often proved useful in the field, as one could never predict when their equipment might need repairs or if they had to forage for food or medicine. Most importantly of all, the boy learned more of the assassins and of the Templars. The master assassin often emphasized that Naruto had to understand everything there was to know about these two organizations, their structures, purposes, means, history, and origins. After all, he would one day become a part of their struggle. Taka also made a series of deals, partnerships, and investments with many of the merchants while purchasing a wide assortment of supplies that ranged from basic necessities to medicines, plants, and other materials. When Naruto wasn't studying, he would undergo rigorous physical training. Each day, Taka would train him in the ways of the assassins, subjugating him to flexibility, balance, strength, endurance, speed, and many other physically strenuous exercises that pushed his body far beyond its limits. The boy was left on the brink of exhaustion every day and forced to rely on his advanced healing, something that the Uzumakis were known to have, and he would do it all over again the next morning. Due to this, his body had changed from slim to lean and strong. He was more lean than powerful looking, as he was also flexible, which was the perfect combination that he was told was needed to be like his ancestors before him. He was also taught a great deal in combat, movement, observation, deduction, and especially stealth. As part of his daily regime, Naruto would also practice both armed and unarmed combat against training dummies under the watchful eye of his instructor, and before long, the apprentice developed a degree of proficiency in wielding dozens of different weapons, though he seemed to favor the hidden blade, katana, hand axe with the blade the shape of the assassin symbol, kama, and kusarigama over the others. Ranged weapons included a bow and arrow and a small crossbow that could be held in one hand. He had taken a liking to these weapons as they could fire farther than a throwing knife could go, and they were silent. He had also been trained a bit in chakra control, but only enough to use some small fuinjutsu. The master wanted him to learn to not rely solely on chakra and learn the other aspects of the assassins first. However, combat wasn't everything in an assassin's repertoire. There were more delicate skills that needed to be learned, and unfortunately his teacher proved to be almost disturbingly sadistic when it came to teaching these particulars. He had also visited with Natsuki as much as he could, but only at nighttime when he wasn't so completely exhausted from earlier training. His master had also taken an interest in her due to her also being an Uzumaki. Training in free running was also something that he did, as this was the way the assassins would move way back in the years, and they utilized it to great effect. They were faster and stronger than that of a ninja would be, and that was without chakra as they existed before the discovery of it. He still wore the same gray training robes that he had when he first began and when he first met Natsuki, but they now concealed some gravity and resistance seals. He had also chose to hold 5 throwing knives on each side of the belt with the assassin's symbol proudly on display in the center. He was currently on his way to the Hokage's office along with his master to see him, as he hadn't been seen or heard from in those 2 years that he began training. Having no appointment with the leader of the village, the two stealthily passed the receptionist and entered the room slowly. They looked up from under their hoods and noticed the Hokage was staring at them with a mixture of surprise, awe, and a bit of suspicion. "A master assassin and apprentice, I presume." Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, spoke calmly, even though he knew how dangerous the assassins were. He was more curious as what they wanted and how any survived. "What can I do for you today?" he asked while signaling to the Anbu not to attack, as they had just realized the 2 people who were in the room. "Stand down." "But sir," they protested. "Standing before you is a member of the Assassin Brotherhood, an organization sworn to protect and ensure the survival of free will and humanity. This man, assuming I guessed correctly, is of master ranking, meaning he would be on par with Enbu captains and commanders, maybe even the Sannin. None of you could hope to match him. So stand down." Hiruzen commanded them again. Reluctantly, the Anbu backed off. It wasn't as if they didn't know of the assassins. In fact, a lot of the higher-up shinobi and even some civilians knew of their existence. They were considered the boogeymen to the corrupt and were feared by them but were respected by all shinobi. Seemingly ignoring the ANBU's nervousness, Taka inclined his head in greeting to their Hokage. It seems that even after a near decade of absence from the world, the assassins have left quite an impression upon you, Hokage-sama. The Sandaime inclined his head in mutual respect, gazing directly into the man's shadowed eyes. Indeed, I had the privilege to meet one of the heads of the assassins, Sumejiro, shortly after the Second Shinobi World War. Never was there a more honorable or wiser man than he. Truly, the elderly man agreed as he recognized the name. Well, allow me to introduce myself. I am Taka Shizu, the last master of the Assassin Order. Hiruzen Sarutobi, Sandaime Hokage of Konohagakure. Hiruzen responded back, it is an honor. Likewise. Now, what brings you to our village, Takadono? As you have said, we have not seen the assassins in Konoha for a good while. We had thought your members had left. Taka is fine, Hokage-sama. Originally, I was merely passing through and staying the night and I found a small remnant of the Brotherhood. I do believe that I will stay here after what I had discovered. He said with a happy grin at finding one of the most important people to the Brotherhood, but his grin faded a bit. I had also been following leads to our greatest enemy. He said seriously. The Templars? Hiruzen asked a bit fearfully as he had heard of them. Yes, that and the Jinchuriki girl. He said, and Hiruzen narrowed his eyes and looked at the boy, only to see that he wasn't affected at the secret that was let out. What do you want with Natsuki? I wish to know if she is also an Uzumaki. My apprentice here is named Naruto Uzumaki, and the Uzumakis are the descendants of the greatest assassins the world has ever known. Taka said, and the Sandaime was happy that the missing boy wasn't really missing but was healthy and alright. Yes, she is truly an Uzumaki, but only half. The Hokage said as he finally relaxed a bit. The master assassin didn't immediately reply as it looked like he was relieved at hearing the truth about the girl. He had never seen her and was only told about her from Naruto, and even he didn't have a definite answer to if she was a true Uzumaki. Getting the confirmation was a great relief to him. You have nothing to fear of me, Hokage-sama, Taka said, knowing that the shinobi were following his every move. I merely wish to train her to fight her family's most hated enemies. Also, there is another group out there that wants the Biju, but I don't know for what purpose. You mean the Akatsuki? Hiruzen said. I had heard about this new group forming a while ago, but I don't know much about them. That's right, but for now the Templars are the real threat. The Templars? It's been years since I've heard that name. Even our best spymaster has discovered very little about this organization. Any information we have on them is from your organization all those years ago, and it is horribly outdated. Sarutobi muttered, glancing at his Anbu guards, and sighed before explaining. Given the circumstances and each of your unquestionable loyalty, I am hereby raising your clearance levels. Understand that all information pertaining to the organizations known as the Templars and Akatsuki is classified, and revealing any details is punishable by death. Is that clear? Hi, the Anbu said as one. Good, the Hokage said, turning back to the master assassin as they entered the forest surrounding Konohagakure. Taka-san, if you would? As I said, Konoha is severely lacking on intel. I'm not surprised. The Templars pride themselves on their secrecy. Their members always take extra precautions to ensure that they are never publicly associated with their organization, especially after it went underground decades ago. He paused at this. Anyways, the Templars are an organization that has existed since the time before the Rikudo Sennin. Their goals are simple, noble even, depending on how you look at it. They seek to create a perfect world of peace. Now, as wonderful as this may sound, their true colors are revealed through their barbaric methods. Force, fear, control, and even the destruction of free will. He began to sound angry at that. All are acceptable in the Templars' eyes. And they would position themselves as the world's leaders, controlling every aspect to maintain their twisted perfect world. It is for these reasons and their resulting actions that the assassins view this organization as the greatest threat in the elemental nations and have made it our primary mission to eliminate them. Unfortunately, the task is far more challenging than it appears. We live in the era of shinobi where many would agree with the Templars' views. Their members are numerous and commonly stationed in high-standing positions across the political, economic, social and military ladder in most countries, making things exceedingly difficult. We have not always been successful. Sensing his companion's horror at this revelation, he quickly added, "That's not to say that the fight is completely hopeless. While admittedly, they have the advantage, we can still fight back." Unfortunately, the master assassin grumbled, giving the Hokage a sidelong glance. 20 years ago, the Templar influence was minimal and a thriving brotherhood helped protect this country from any who would threaten its peace. But we were betrayed, resulting in the death of the master assassin stationed here along with the rest of our kin. The survivors here were killed in the Kyuubi attack and the few others in the other guilds retired and hid away, thus allowing the Templars more time to build and grow. No doubt their hold over Hai no Kuni, Konoha, and other places is very strong now. Silence followed after Taka's description of the Templars and their goals. After hearing that an organization bent on world domination to achieve a twisted form of peace and perfection had successfully infiltrated nearly every country in the elemental nations, including their own, and still remained relatively unknown for centuries, was, without a doubt, an absolutely terrifying and catastrophic prospect. I would like to lend my aid to Konoha as a whole, Taka explained, while hoping that he could find the traitors and get people loyal to the assassins in power. Of course you can help us. I assume you are going to rebuild the Brotherhood here in our village then? Hiruzen asked hopefully, as they needed all the help they could get. Yes, I had planned on it as the assassin headquarters was left untouched and was not discovered. I also have another recruit in mind, Taka said as he thought about a certain red-haired pariah that he was told about from Naruto. That's good. I take it Natsuki Uzumaki is the next person you had in mind. Yes, she is a descendant of the true assassin brotherhood and should take her place in it, Taka explained to the Hokage. Now the Hokage was a bit stuck. On one hand, he loved Natsuki like his own granddaughter and wanted her to be as safe and happy as possible. On the other hand, he knew some people were pushing for her to be a ninja in the village, to be a secret weapon. If she was an assassin, she wouldn't be under the Hokage's authority but the assassin Grand Master's authority. After only a bit of thinking, his loving grandfather sighed one out. I will agree to that, although you should know that as a Jinchuriki the council will object to this. It doesn't matter. This could be considered clan business and they can't interfere in clan business. Naruto spoke up for the first time, getting everyone's eyes on him while Taka smiled in pride at the boys' teachings coming together. You aren't afraid that she holds the Kyuubi? Hiruzen asked the boy, wanting to know what he thought of the girl. No, I'm not afraid of her and I don't hate her in any way. She is my friend after all, and my goal is to bring love and peace to the world, not more hate. I will admit that I was surprised that she holds the demon, and I will also admit that the demon killed my parents. However, they would have wanted me to be understanding and strong for them to rebuild our order, and I will not disappoint them. I will make sure that Natsuki is safe and happy for you, and I will make sure to inform you of any information I receive later on the road if you can do the same. Hiruzen seemed to sink into his chair in relief and nodded to the blonde while Taka smiled wider as more pride flowed through him. I can arrange that quite easily. I will send any letters we get into the bird cages located around the village containing information as well as some assassinations that I may feel need to be performed. Understood. If that is all, I would like to find my friend and have her recruited now. Goodbye for now, Hokage-sama, Naruto said as the two left to find Natsuki. Goodbye for now, and watch out. Should the council get word of this, they will try to find her even if it invades clan business. They will just try to be more sneaky about it. He warned as the boy left through the window, leaving the old man to smile for Natsuki's luck. Things will certainly become different soon. I can tell, Hiruzen said to himself as he continued his paperwork. Natsuki Uzumaki is a really tough girl, Naruto and his master had found. It had been 3 years since they had taken her from the attic of the orphanage and brought her to her new home in the assassin headquarters. He smiled at the memory of a younger Natsuki jumping all over him in tears of happiness when he offered for her to join him in the new guild. He also remembers the completely odd look on her face when she saw their master and the guild for the first time. She was like a blur running through the guild and looking at everything she could find. In the 3 years of training, the short red-haired girl had changed greatly from before they had met. Her red hair was cut shorter and only went to the top part of her back. She had grown to be pretty tall as well when Taka helped with her diet, as she didn't only eat ramen now. She had grown to a height of 5 feet 6 inches tall, only a few inches shorter than Naruto. She had become very well toned as well, with all of her running and training that she underwent to become an assassin. She had learned how to free run just like the best assassins have before her or Naruto. While not as good as him, she could still keep up with him. The two of them have also worked on their swordsmanship and other weapons, which was something she took to really quickly, much to her happiness. In fact, she found that like Naruto, all of the assassin techniques came to her very quickly, where she also unlocked her eagle senses. The thing that got to her was all the chakra control. Oh, how she hated chakra control like it was the devil. Taka had told her that she had so much chakra that it would be chaotic and hard to fix, so naturally this would annoy her the most. He really didn't want to teach them chakra control this early, as he wanted them to develop without it for a while, but she had so much that he had to focus on it more that he would have liked to, but she had eventually gotten it up to a good level. She had also begun to learn all about fuinjutsu with Naruto, something that she loved more than all the ninja techniques. She never knew exactly why, but she just found it so interesting, although she also loved kenjutsu as well. They had also learned that Natsuki had a fire element along with a wind element, where Naruto had a wind, earth, and water element, something that shocked their master. They had both mastered the control exercises for their affinities but were not taught any jutsu just yet. Both of them were also very accurate with throwing knives along with the standard ninja tools, the bow and arrow, and the small crossbow that they both carried with them. All in all, they were both proud of their growth as assassins, and their teacher couldn't have been more proud of them. Naruto, now at the age of 13, was now a very well-built, muscled young teen. He was in no way ripped, he was more lean, but you could see the hidden muscles in his biceps and legs along with his six-pack abs and pecs. He had grown to be around 5 feet and 11 inches tall, and his hair had been flattened a bit thanks to wearing the assassin's hood for so long. He now wore the pure white robes along with the crimson red sash. His gauntlets were a hardened leather with the assassin symbol on each one, made of metal, like Connor's, and his steel-toed boots were of the same design, and they came up to just under his knees. His chest guard wrapped snugly around his whole torso and sides all the way around to the back. He also had some light spalders on his shoulders, that same as the rest of the armor. Another addition he had made was a crimson red face mask that he wore on his face to help hide his identity, like Kakashi's. He also had some pouches for his ninja items as well as his throwing knives and smoke bombs. His sword was held proudly at his left side along with a wakizashi strapped across his back. He, of course, had both of his hidden blades tucked safely away under his gauntlets, and his right hand had a steel-plated glove that covered his whole right hand to really do some damage in a fist fight. He also had 2 kama put into separate openings in his leather belt, one on each side, and a bow and quiver of arrows on his back. His crossbow was also present on his back on the opposite side of his quiver of arrows, and his hand axe with the blade shaped as the assassin's symbol was next to his kama on the right side. He also had a kusarigama and some other extra weapons sealed into a scroll that was in his pouch for easy access. Natsuki also had on pure white robes with a red sash, although hers were much more feminine looking. Her upper robes were parted a bit to show some skin and just barely the top of her S. She also had some standard leather armor the same color as Naruto's, and she didn't have any face mask either. Her armor was also much thinner looking, and she had less of it compared to Naruto, as she wanted to rely more on speed, that brute strength. Her sword was also worn on the left side of her body with similar pouches to Naruto's connected to the belt, and her hand axe on the other side of her belt. All in all, they both looked very intimidating to any enemy they might be facing. Natsuki couldn't have been happier with the new life that she had now that Naruto and her master Taka had came to her and saved her when she needed it the most. She blushed a bit at that thought as she relaxed from her training in her room. She remembered the day when Naruto showed her his face, and she blushed even more at that as she began to think of his words to her. "It's so nice to see you again, Naruto-kun," she said with a blush as she had quickly warmed up to the robed boy. Her blush skyrocketed when he finally pulled his hood down, revealing the most handsome face she had ever seen anywhere, not even noticing the man that was with him yet. "I'm only showing you what I look like because I feel like I can trust you completely. I know this is sudden and all, but we wanted to show you something that I think you will really love, but I need you to trust me," he had told her calmly. She, on the other hand, hardly heard anything he said as she was so focused on his handsome face that all she knew was that he asked her something. Her uncontrollable blush never leaving her face, she simply yelled, "Yes." That man started to chuckle a bit and she saw that Naruto was a little bit confused at the simple answer and blushed in embarrassment, but he decided to just accept it and motioned for her to follow them. She quickly went to his side and looked at him as he sent a big smile to her while he put his hood back up, and she was just happy to be leaving the orphanage she was in. "Who is this?" she asked as she tried to hide behind Naruto's side a bit because she didn't really sense any anger or hate from the man. "This is my master, Taka, but we will talk later, and know that he is a friend and won't harm you in any way," Naruto had told her as she looked the man who smiled and nodded to her, making her smile a bit. They entered into this very large boulder which amazed her so much. She blushed a bit at the happy memory of Naruto's amused look at her while the master had chuckled at her again. "Now Natsuki, we have quite a long story to tell you and a single question at end of the story," Taka said seriously while she also became as serious as she could in front of the stern adult. "Of course, I love stories after all," she said just a bit too loudly, and it looked like Taka was a bit annoyed at that but didn't say anything. "Alright then, I will tell you the story of our order as best I can, the Order of the Assassins." She remembered every word that she was told and could imagine the starry eyes she must have had on her face at the time. Not that Naruto would blame her, as he was probably the same way at the things he had found out. She still could hardly believe the stories she heard from her precious people. The assassins had actually done all these amazing things in the shadows and did the best they could to save the people and spread peace, something she now found that she really wanted. She found that she quickly fell in love with the assassins and what they fought for, and she vowed she would do anything she could do to join Naruto in rebuilding them, and she thought on the single most happy decision she had made in her life. As he finished telling the story, he smiled kindly at her completely odd look. "Now that you heard the story of our ancestors, the story of the assassins, would you like to become one and help to rebuild the order here in Konoha, with me as the Grand Master of the Assassins Brotherhood of Konoha?" Without even needing to think, she replied with unbreakable conviction, "Of course, Grand Master. I will become an assassin and help to protect all the innocents I can," she said while Naruto sent her a huge smile which made her blush much more. "Good, then I'm going to start training you today. I hope you can handle all of these moves and weapons we have here," Taka said seriously. "I will be training you as hard as I can up until your age group of kids become ninjas. At age 13 you and Naruto will then be on the same team and will train as ninjas, but you will be an assassin first and foremost. I will expect you to do all of the things I say and not complain. Is this understood?" he asked her firmly and got a confident nod in return. "Good, then let's begin." What they didn't see was the two giant red eyes open up from inside the seal, and they didn't hear the words from this massive beast either. Interesting, very interesting. Looking back, she still doesn't regret any of the choices that she made, even if the training was borderline on torture. She learned and grew a lot, and the best thing, Naruto was always there to pick her back up again and dust her off. She had grown a major crush on the boy but could never work up the courage to tell him yet. Not that they had much free time anyway with all the training and studying. Standing in front of their grinning master early in the morning, they looked at him suspiciously as he only grinned when he had some kind of torture that he called training planned. "Well, we're both here now, master. What do you have planned for us?" Naruto asked as tried to focus on the master and not on Natsuki's cute, suspicious look. "Naruto. Natsuki," he said while suppressing his grin for now and trying to get them to be serious for now. "Have you finished your morning exercises?" "Hi," they responded as one. "Good. Today, we will be doing something different. Clean yourselves up and meet me at the entrance to the guild," he said and turned away, hiding his evil grin from them. The two assassins looked to each other before looking away with mild blushes, and they moved to get ready for the day. They had a quick breakfast and a small rest from their early training and headed to the exit of the headquarters. "Come with me, Naruto, Natsuki," Taka said, hobbling into the forest. The assassin trainees quickly followed. As you know, the assassins have branches in several countries, including the 5 great shinobi countries. Of those 5, each branch has their own specialty. Kumogakure's branch of assassins excel in ranged and aerial assassinations, climbing, and our iconic leap of faith due to their country's mountainous terrain. Kirigakure's assassins are the undisputed masters of stealth, currently holding the cleanest record in kills and efficiency, while Iwagakure's branch boasts the greatest skills in close combat. The assassins in Sanagakure utilize the most chakra in the order due to the desert's lack of cover and create powerful, elaborate illusions to blend and disappear. As for Konoha, the master assassin glanced over at his attentive student. This is where you come in. The assassins that had previously resided here were experts in free running, but they were most known for tracking. Legends speak that they could pick up trails weeks old and locate their target in the densest of forests within a few days, no matter the lead their mark already possessed. That's amazing, he said with clear admiration on his face as he digested this new information. Natsuki wasn't much better though. Indeed, today I have asked for some help from a ninja from here to help your free running to advance. We will do some tracking as well, but with the eagle eyes you two have it would be very easy for you. Hi, they replied while being suspicious as to who will help them today. Just as they were going to ask who it was, a ball of cloth appeared in between two trees and opened to stab into the two trees with kunai. Naruto pulled out both of his kamas from his belt while Natsuki went for her hand axe. The object, though, appeared to be a banner that read the in single Anko Mitarashi. Hello Gakis, I'm Anko Mitarashi and I will be assisting you today, she said with an evil grin on her face. As an assassin, being able to continue running and switch directions quickly and easily is an important skill to have. It teaches you perception and observation, both of which are fundamental to the brotherhood. I know you already know this, but true skill comes from practice and experience, so with the basics I have already taught you. I hope for Anko-san here to iron out the kinks. The master assassin said as he began to laugh but stopped as he coughed quite violently. I have spoken to the Sandame and he has proposed an acceptable method to train and test you. Yep, so I'm going to chase you and probably scar you for life, and I have 6 hours. Anko said with an equally evil look while the kids looked to their master with a bit of concern as this coughs, as they knew he wasn't getting any younger. A short silence followed though, as the two openly gawped at Taka. The awe they had previously felt sunk like a 10-ton stone in a river. Words failed him as he tried to process exactly what was just said. What? Was the two assassins' questions, but they went unanswered as two kunai flew at them from Anko. She was mildly impressed though, as both were blocked quite easily. Not bad, but try this one then, she said as she did some hand signs and said, summoning jutsu. Under her appeared the biggest snake the two had ever seen so far in their lives. Looking to one another and then to the hissing snake that looked like it wanted to eat them, they did the smart thing and turned and ran away. Oh, Naruto, Natsuki. You poor fools, Taka thought as he heard the evil cackles of Anko Mitarashi while the screams of the two assassins were also present. I hope she wasn't being honest when she said she was going to scar them for life. 5 hours, 5 painful, tortuous hours had passed since the assassins in training had fled into the forests of Konohagakure with a crazy lady riding a giant snake chasing them. He could feel his muscles burning as his labored breaths and the pounding of his heart beneath the heaving tightness in his chest could be heard. Naruto was at his limit, having pushed his body beyond the point of exhaustion in his need to constantly adapt to the forest's natural obstacles. He was covered in scratches from tree branches, bushes, not to mention Anko would throw blunted kunai at them. Looking over, he saw Natsuki was not doing too much better, although he knew that she could go farther if she really needed to, as she was a Jinchuriki. She also didn't have a scratch on her even though her robes were ripped quite a bit. Well, I guess that's all for today Gakis, Anko said with a grin. You two did really well for today and I can't wait for next week, she said laughing as she left. Yeah, this exercise really wasn't doing them any good sanity-wise. Well, at least that's over, Naruto said to Natsuki. Let's go see Taka-sensei at the Hokage's office. We have confirmation that Councilwoman Shima Saraku of Tanzakugai is either an Akatsuki agent or a sympathizer, Sarutobi said, handing Taka a thick file. E-News team reported Saraku leaving the city on multiple occasions to meet a cloaked man. Yesterday marks the 11th meeting in the past 2 months. Taka calmly sipped his tea as he listened to the Sandame Hokage. Over the years, the two had become close acquaintances in their efforts to rebuild the Assassin Brotherhood and root out the Akatsuki presence within their country to start. Unfortunately, their enemies' influence proved to be far deeper than they had expected, and with only a handful of trustworthy individuals brought into the loop, very few enemy agents had been identified, captured, and eliminated. Any idea who this man is and what they were talking about? Unfortunately, no. Whoever he is, he's an excellent censor. Every time they try to get close, he ends their meeting and disappears. Even Inu, with the special training you gave him, was noticed when he tried to go in alone. It's only thanks to Kuma's Byakugan that we know he's in Akatsuki. What about Saraku? Repeated sweeps of her home have yielded nothing incriminating, but we have someone tailing her at all times. I've already dispatched reinforcements in case things go south. They're due for a report in 3 hours. Good. Now, what about you? How are you doing? Hiruzen asked the man as he could tell that he was not completely healthy. I have found out that I am dying, Taka said, simply making the Hokage's eyes widen. I see, the Hokage muttered sadly. I'm guessing that you haven't told the two yet. No, not yet, he said calmly. I will be having Naruto take over as the Grand Master for me when I am gone. I see. Are you, sir? With those last words, the doors slammed open to reveal a heavily scratched and scuffed up assassin recruit staggering in with another staggering in but without any scratches on her. Well, it seems that you're still alive and in one piece, Naruto-kun, Natsuki-chan. Sarutobi said with a smile. I expected nothing less. Take the rest of the day off, you two, and we can review your performances tomorrow. I'll see you in the courtyard for our morning practice at the usual time. Taka said with amusement in his voice. I sometimes hate you too, Naruto said while Natsuki just nodded at them, making them laugh a bit. We did it for your benefit though, Taka said as they left without another word to the two older men. It seems my disciples are quite upset. I am not surprised, Sarutobi said, now openly laughing. Anko isn't known to hold back and can take pleasure in what she does. You saw for yourself the destruction she can cause. Nevertheless, you have taught them well. I could not be more proud. Bah, there is still room for improvement, the assassin master scoffed, though he still had a small smile adorned on his lips. Anyways, I have a request, Hiruzen. Oh? Naruto and Natsuki are progressing quickly. Taka said this almost sadly. It is only a matter of time before I can fully induct him into the Brotherhood. However, he will be inexperienced and exposed without any other recruits providing him support. And I cannot accompany him on his missions, so, you want me to put them on a genin squad? Sarutobi finished quickly connecting the dots. You're quick on the uptake, despite your age. The Hokage shot him a withering glare, not at all offended though since Taka was actually older. It's a bold move, Taka, and it will alert the Akatsuki that the Assassin Brotherhood has returned to Konoha. Hi, but it'll also protect us from the law and create a stronger bond between us and the village. True. I'll see what I can do. Thank you, Hiruzen. The Hokage merely waved it off as he shuffled through some documents. I have some information for you too that I want you to deal with, Taka said to his two apprentices when they returned to their home and they cleaned up. Tomorrow Kumo will send an ambassador to sign a peace treaty with Hiruzen, but knowing the current Raikage, something will happen. Taka said, thinking about the third Raikage. I know that they are on the fourth Raikage, but I have plans for the third. What do you want us to do, master? Natsuki asked curiously while Naruto listened carefully. I have reason to believe that he will be after one of the main branch Hyuga members, as he has always wanted the Byakugan for their village. Don't worry though, the village is taking steps to take care of him, I believe, and have a more competent man put in charge. Taka explained. So you want us to watch this ambassador then? Naruto questioned. Kind of, yes. You two are to assassinate this man and any other men or women he brings with him. Taka said seriously, but inside he was a bit worried about their first kill. Kill? Natsuki questioned a bit fearfully, but Naruto understood that this is what he was meant to do, as it was his clan that had been there through generation to generation. Yes, you will kill these men and look for any information while I notify Hiruzen about our work, Taka said as he left their hideout, leaving the two to prepare themselves. Standing at night watching over the hotel room of the Kumo ambassador's room, Naruto and Natsuki were fully prepared to end the lives of him and his helper as well. Natsuki had been quite nervous earlier, but Naruto had calmed her down and told her that it was in her blood to follow the creed. Unfortunately, sometimes the creed called for death. With all the training the two young assassins had, one aged 13 and the other 11, they snuck into the hotel through the window and saw the two men chatting not far from their location. They had run into some traps beforehand but had broken through them with amazing skill. Naruto nodded to Natsuki and they got closer to the two men, and when they were in reaching distance they struck. A subtle click got the main ambassador's attention, and just when he was about to yell, he found a searing pain in his neck and fell over, the world going dark. His partner had gotten similar treatment and was soon dead as well. The Kumo ambassadors landed on the floor, each with a blade sliding out from their neck before it withdrew into a hidden steel compartment placed upon the right forearm of one Naruto Uzumaki and Natsuki Uzumaki. Natsuki shook a bit as she tried not to cry but was comforted by Naruto, who had remained impassive until he felt a massive headache come out of nowhere. Falling to his knees, he went to the ground, not seeing the wood seemingly move and grow around him, but Natsuki had and was amazed at that. Mokutan, she thought in awe and a bit of worry for her partner and secret crush. A few seconds later the pain subsided and the wood returned to normal while Naruto shook off some dizziness and stood again. He was completely blown away at what had happened, as he heard the sounds of the wood moving and shifting and came to the same conclusion that Natsuki had. He had unlocked Mokutan. "Yay, I know that is impossible, but I thought I could make some amazing things happen with the wood style, so I gave it to Naruto." Looking over to a pouting Natsuki as she did not have Mokutan, he simply chuckled a bit and continued with his mission. He crouched down as he turned the dead body over before he placed his palms face down, and with it did he close his eyes briefly. Hitoyasumi Wahe. Rest in peace, or at least what I came up with. And with a downward swipe of his palm did he forever close the eyes of his first kill. Natsuki did the same, respecting the dead as they were taught by Taka. Looking toward the scroll in the man's pockets did he take it, and upon seeing the Kumo Raikage's emblem did he find what he was looking for. Unrolling it did Naruto scanned the contents of the scroll. Mission: Sulfur Monosulfide Rank. Objective: pose as our ambassador for Kumo and get into Konohagakure's walls to sign a peace treaty. Once inside you are to infiltrate the Hyuga clan compound and take the first and if possible second heiress of the clan, and you are to return to Kumogakure within the next 3 days after completing the objective. I can't tell you how important this mission is or the delicacy it poses to Kumo's stability if this mission goes wrong. Secondary objective: sabotage key locations of Konoha's militaristic foundries. The academy, library, armory, food stock, water towers and communication network. I will have an envoy ready for you upon your return when your mission is complete. Remember, for the glory of Kumogakure no Sato. Signed, Sandame Raikage, E. Seeing the scroll made Natsuki feel better, and she even felt accomplished at saving the Hyuga girls, helping the village, and she knew that the man was an enemy. Copying the scroll quickly, he rolled up the original and placed it on the dead body. Did they turn around and head straight toward the window and jump out, not giving a second glance. Free falling from the top floor of the hotel did they flip forward before landing in a graceful crouch before they vanish into the dark streets of Konoha. They ran as fast as they could through the red light district on the way back to their headquarters. Now, one may have called this place unfit for a child to be in, and Naruto would normally agree on this, but it was a great information circle for them. One of the tenets of the creed was to hide in plain sight, and the poor and abandoned areas of the red light district were perfect for that. The areas that were seen but were left at their face value at the same time and left completely ignored by the more gifted population. The people here would see and hear everything and be ignored at the same time. Money was what made the world go round, and it went double for this location. Flash a little coin and people talk of the things they see and hear. Pay off the homeless and they give you information others would have found useless, but it would be really invaluable. Simple conversations between shinobi and recent activities of the ninja system within Konoha could be a lot more for the assassins. Or paying off the courtesans gave him a valuable resource of the women at the clubs to keep their ears and eyes open while they did business and would help distract the enemy. It's been a way of gaining information and access to other areas. A tactic his and Natsuki's clan used since long ago. Danzo Shimura, the aged leader of his own root Anbu, the nicknamed Kaimei Shinobi, or the darkness of shinobi, sighed in exhaustion as he once again read the reports on his desk relating to the events of late last night. Every time he did so he found it harder for him to realize how much his control of Konoha was lacking. Reading the scroll once more, Danzo frowned in annoyance. Danzo-sama, we've investigated the area of the Kumo ambassador's death. Finding the hotel room was secure, all the traps were in place, and we had Root Anbu stationed all corners of the area, but whoever did this bypassed them all without making a sound. Whoever this person was, They knew what they were doing and there was no evidence of a struggle and no DNA can be found for our researchers to analyze potential suspects. This person was a professional. He bypassed veteran route Anbu, disarmed traps made by the best trap makers we have, and seemed to literally have just walked right in and killed the man. Me and the others will be looking further into this matter if you wish. Finished with the scroll, Danzo rubbed his temples and pondered his next move in his dark, underground hideout while a crimson-crossed banner was on the wall behind him. Hiruzen, on the other hand, was having a fairly decent morning and didn't realize his old friends and now rivals' annoyance. He had been informed of the situation and while at first he was worried as he didn't know if the information was correct and if it wasn't it would have severe backlash on them, but the information was correct. He did feel bad though, as what he thought of as his grandkids were being the ones to kill the two men. He was proud of their progress though. They passed the traps and silently killed them and copied the evidence, left one on the body and sent one to him to prove that the kills were justified, and they made it all through without getting injured at all. Hiruzen then recovered from his prideful thoughts and looked up at the person standing before him. This person being none other than Hiyashi Hyuga, clan head of the Hyuga clan and father of both Hinata and Hanabi Hyuga. Said man was looking over the very scroll which was delivered to him that once rested atop the Kumo Nin's corpse. Hokage-sama, what are you planning to do about this? Kumogakure was willing to kidnap one of my daughters and heiress to the Hyuga clan. They used this peace treaty as a ruse for them to try this act of kidnapping. They must suffer the repercussions of trying this, and seeing as this is an authentic order given by the Raikage, they cannot deny the claims against them. Hiyashi said, and though his face was impassive as ever, the anger in his tone was clear. He loved his daughters even if he didn't show it very often. Hiruzen only gave Hiyashi a small nod with a smile before he stood up from his desk. Yes Hiyashi, they will pay in full. I will bring this to the Fire Daimyo so he can organize a meeting with the Raikage and the Lightning Daimyo to discuss the charges against them. They cannot discredit this, as the stamp of approval is the true emblem of the Raikage, the Hokage said. Granted. Now about this mysterious person or people who killed the Kumo Nin. Hiyashi trailed off, thus making Hiruzen shake his head before he turned to the windows of his office as he overlooked the village from the Hokage tower. He finally decided on a plan of action. If I could have the people who did the killing, would you like to talk to them? Hiruzen asked, trying to read the man as he didn't want to give away the assassins if the Hyuga wouldn't be loyal. I would like to meet them. To speak freely, Hokage-sama. These people or whoever did it has done nothing against me or my clan to hurt us in any way. These unknown vigilantes have done my clan a favor in ridding that Kumo Nin intentionally or not, so they have our gratitude, especially my wife. He finished to where Hiruzen could only nod slightly. Good, I will contact them, but know that you must never speak of them at all. No secrets of theirs can be shared, this is absolutely vital. Hiruzen said sternly to the Hyuga, who began to feel the pressure build up in the room. I swear myself to secrecy, Hokage-sama. Only my wife and brother will know of this meeting. Good, then I will talk to them and have a meeting arranged. Hiruzen said as the other man got up to leave his office. I hope this is all right with Taka and the others. They could really use the Hyuga as allies after all. Standing in a remote clearing at night time was the clan head of the Hyuga clan, his wife, and his brother. All waiting for the mysterious savior or saviors to appear in front of them for a meeting. Hizashi, the brother of the clan head, was feeling particularly grateful to be there because he knew for a fact that if the killing of the ambassador went down differently, it would have been much more severe. If no evidence was found on the men, then repercussions could have been made by the previous Raikage and they could have tried to take the body of his brother, although he would have taken his place. Speaking of previous Raikage, the old man was found dead not too long after sending the kidnapping attempt orders, much to the silent joy of the Hyuga clan. Now he was just trying to think of ways to repay the people who had indirectly saved his life, and he had one idea. Just as the time of the meeting was to start, two figures jumped into the clearing in front of the three Hyugas. Activating their Byakugans, they found the taller one to be male and the other to be female. They immediately knew who the female was and was shocked to know it was the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox. We heard you wanted to speak to us. The male said while he and Natsuki saw the Byakugans studying them. We would like to thank you for all you have done, and if you would, could you tell us who you are? Hiyashi's wife, Hitomi, asked kindly with a kind smile, as even if they knew who the girl was they didn't know the boy. The two appeared to be thinking about revealing themselves and eventually agreed. Understand, the secrecy is one of the most important things to us, and if you were to reveal us it would be devastating to us. Naruto spoke to them, getting understanding nods from the people present. I am Naruto Uzumaki. And I am Natsuki Uzumaki. We are assassins, they said, one after the other. The adults didn't appear too surprised at who they were but what they were, which made Naruto suspicious. Could those eyes tell that she was the Jinchuriki? Natsuki was also suspicious, as she was told about being the Jinchuriki soon into their training, and it didn't bother her anymore. Is there any way we could ever repay you two for all that you have done for us? Hitomi asked, but was a bit surprised when Hisashi stepped forward. I believe that I may have something that we could do for you, he said as he looked to his brother, who then allowed him to speak. I think that my son, Neji, would flourish in your group of assassins if you would allow him join you, if that is all right. He finished and saw the wide eyes of his brother and sister-in-law. The two assassins in training were also surprised but hid it well, both thinking that the Byakugan would be a valuable tool to have in their brotherhood. Hiyashi seemed to think about this before looking to the two assassins. If we allowed this, what would you say? Well, first of all, his curse seal would have to be removed immediately. He started noticing the smile come to Hisashi's face but the slightly clenched jaw to Hiyashi's. We can't have anyone in our order being controlled by others. Secondly, he would no longer be living in the Hyuga compound, as he would be in our hideout to be trained, and he would remain there. He would be free to go back to the clan home to train in his abilities, but he must not be seen by anyone other than the three of you. You should also have reasons for his absence to the clan. Naruto finished as he waited for their answer. Hisashi could barely contain himself as he wished for this greatly. He knew his son would be much happier without the curse seal, and he would be safe with these people. The fact that his son already felt indebted to the people who indirectly saved him didn't hurt either. He was a bit sad that he wouldn't be living in the clan anymore, but he knew he would be alright. Hiyashi knew his brother would be more than happy with this, and his son Neji would also. He could see the good reasons of having the seal removed too, but he knew that it would take a bit of work on his part to convince the main sealer of the Hyuga clan to remove the mark. Hitomi was also hoping her husband would allow it, as she hated the curse seal and has been trying to have it removed permanently. I believe that I can have that arranged, Naruto-san, Hiyashi said, which surprised Hiyashi but caused Hitomi to smile happily. The assassins were also surprised, as they had heard a bit of the Hyuga clan head being really stern and stiff. For your help with our clan we are in your debt, and I will recognize you and your order as friends of the Hyuga clan. I hope that in return you will help us in any of our times of need as well. We would be more than happy to help you out, Hiyashi-sama. We will talk about the details later. When Neji is ready, send him to this location and we will meet him, Naruto said as he and Natsuki suddenly disappeared from the location as the Hyugas then left and began preparing. Neji just couldn't believe what was happening to him for the life of him. First, his father had informed him of what took place, which shocked him, that his cousins were in potential danger. He was also told what would have happened if the plan worked, but a Hyuga had killed the man. He felt a sense of awe at the people who had gotten to the men first, and he really wanted to meet them. Later on, his father had informed him of what would be taking place. His father offered him up as a member of this group, but that secrecy was absolutely needed. He then heard that these people wanted the curse seal removed from him, and he felt even more indebted to them. He felt a bit sad and scared at not being able to live in the compound with his father and the rest of the clan, but he knew that he would be better off leaving. Plus, he could still come back discreetly and have his father train him in his Juken style. A few hours later, the seal was removed and he rested off a somewhat painful procedure. He didn't recognize the person removing the seal and knew that he wasn't a Hyuga, but he couldn't bring himself to care all that much. Neji Hyuga? A voice asked behind him, startling him a bit as he turned to see who it was. He was the same two robed figures that were described to him by his father. Yes, I take if you are the people I am to be joining, Neji said with a smile on his face as he got on one knee and bowed a bit. I swear that I will forever remain loyal to you, cause, he said, which got smiles from the two assassins. Naruto walked up and placed his hands on the boy's extended ones. That is good to know, my friend. Come with us and we will show you our master and explain some things to you. Nodding, Neji quickly followed behind the two to their hideout, thinking about how much his life had changed so quickly, and it was all for the better. Taka heard his apprentices enter the hideout and then saw their newest recruit. He at first didn't know what to think as he didn't want anyone talking about their orders so freely just yet. He quickly shook that thought off though, as he knew that having a Hyuga as an assassin was a really good thing, as their Byakugan would prove invaluable to their creed. It would allow some of the same abilities of the Uzumaki clan's eagle vision, but not as good in some areas but was better as in some other ones. It could not show them who was an enemy, but it could pick up on the subtle movements of people, and from there they would know they were an enemy. It also wouldn't show direct targets in a specific way. A Hyuga would have to pick them out based on description. At the same time, the Byakugan showed chakra points, and the Hyugas were able to stop the flow of chakra in the enemy's body, and the eagle vision couldn't do that at all. Speaking of bloodlines, he still laughed at the face Hiruzen made once he found out that Naruto had unlocked wood release. The only explanation was that the Uzumaki were really of Senju blood, as the clan had separated during the time the first hidden village was formed. That half of the Senju had settled on a remote island and started Uzushigakure and changed their names to Uzumaki. Hello Neji Hyuga, and welcome to the assassin's headquarters in Konoha, Taka said, and he received the same greeting that Naruto and Natsuki got, which made him smile at the loyalty the boy had shown to them. Let's get started then, as you have much to learn, Neji, Taka said, but what the others didn't know is that he didn't have much more time to live, and he wanted to explain the teachings to the young 12-year-old boy. Come on, Neji, you're too stiff. I know you aren't used to using any blades, but it is a fundamental skill for the assassins to at least know how each one is used, Taka said to the newest recruit, who he had been training for 5 months now. His sickness was increasing and he was getting weaker, but his students had no idea of what was happening and wouldn't until they were ready. You have to know each and every weapon that you might face and find their weak points, then strike, he said as he watched Neji sparring with the other 2 assassins. Neji was not really into using any weapons, as he was a taijutsu-based fighter, but he knew that to be an assassin he needed to have at least some skill in weapons. He really didn't mind the shorter and lighter weapons like the daggers, throwing knives, and the hidden blades, but swords and spears were not his thing. He was dressed similarly to the other 2, wearing the spotless white robes with a hood on his head. He had the same hardened leather belt over a crimson sash that Naruto had once worn, and the same leather gauntlets, spalders, and chest piece. He also had leather boots that went up to just under his knees. He wore this as he wanted to be quick and agile and not completely held down. Naruto had changed his look quite a bit after he had unlocked his wood release. He now wore some dark green samurai-like armor that was a lot like the Tobirama Senju's armor. He had the chest piece that wrapped around his entire torso and back, but he added a white cape that went down to his knees in the back. The guard that hung down in the front was also there, but there were 2 on either side of his legs like Hashirama Senju's armor as well. The shoulder guards were also the same as Hashirama's and didn't have any of the fur that Tobirama's had. His belt was replaced with a steel one over his crimson sash that held his robes closed, and it had the assassin symbol carved into it with an Uzumaki spiral in the center of the assassin symbol. On the parts of his shoulder guards that curved up to protect his neck was the same Uzumaki spiral in the center of them. His gauntlets were the same color as his armor and were designed with the same assassin symbol and Uzumaki symbol that was on his belt and covered his hidden blades. His boots were also plated with the green armor and the Uzumaki swirl designs in the middle of them with tribal patterns above and below them. He still had all of his weapons in the same places on his belt and back, and still wore the crimson face mask under his hood. All in all, he looked much more intimidating now. Natsuki didn't change too much from the pure white robes with a red sash, but she did take some of the same armor Naruto had, but it was thinner and lighter. Her gauntlets, boots, and chest piece were all remade with the lighter green armor and had the same designs as Naruto's did. Her shoulder armor was also similar to Naruto's, but it didn't have the armor curve up at the neck. Standing beside the master assassin was Enko Mitarashi, watching with the master as the assassins trained. She was one of the only shinobi granted the freedom to watch the assassins during their training due to her relationship with Naruto and the others, and her services in identifying, interrogating, and eliminating several Akatsuki agents across the country. She generally visited about once per week when not taking missions, and had formed an almost sibling-like bond with the Naruto and Natsuki, but she really didn't know Neji that much, and in her opinion he was a little too stiff. Today she was contributing to their training by occasionally giving some of her own advice. Natsuki, you need to take the time to anticipate your enemy's actions before you strike back. You can't always be so hot-headed. Anko said with a grin. I know that, but ow. Hey, and stay focused on your enemy, she said as she tried not to laugh at how Neji took advantage of her not looking at him during the spar. She still needs more experience and time to learn. Taka muttered to himself, which Anko heard. No one really finishes learning, our lives are a never-ending chain of lessons. Anko said wisely, though the effect was somewhat ruined by her typical psychotic grin chuckles. They are far stronger than anyone in his generation. Any shinobi, yes, but by assassin standards, they still have a ways to go. Anko merely shrugged and the two were silent for a moment with only the sounds of steel meeting steel filling the air, but eventually, the Jonin spoke up. Are you concerned? Taka didn't even have to ask what the shinobi was talking about. Hiruzen told you. Hi, when I reported in today. Perhaps a little, and yet you are still going through with this. Indeed I am. What do you think? I don't know. She'll get some closure of this, but you and I both know she'll also have more questions as well. The master assassin was silent for a moment as he contemplated what was said. You've thought this through. Anko's eyes narrowed. Of course I have. Natsuki is 11 years old and you're planning to have her meet one of the most powerful creatures to have ever walked this earth. We can't guarantee her safety when they meet, and on top of that, she's bound to learn things I'm not sure she's ready for. Would you prefer I hold this off until she was older? There was no hesitation. Yes. Anko-san, while I do appreciate your input, my mind is made up on this. She is old enough to meet the Kyuubi and better understand the burdens that she carries. It is true she has matured faster than most, but do not forget that she is still a child. My decision stands, Anko, Taka near shouted. Do not forget where you stand. You are shinobi, we are assassin. I am the highest authority over Natsuki and the other two here in Konoha. Not even the Hokage can give orders to them that go against my rules and decisions. Anko actually stepped back at the vehemence in Taka's voice. You know I'm right. She is too young for this, she said softly to the man. And what would you have me do? He replied in a similar tone of voice. We all want to protect her, but with the Akatsuki out there, we don't have that luxury. We have questions, ones that only the Kyuubi could answer, and Natsuki is the only one that can ask him. From their sideline positions, Taka and Anko approached the now tired-out assassin recruits. You all did really well, and Neji has shown great improvement in the short time that he joined. Taka said as he was happy with the progress the boy made and was certain that when he passed on, the three could improve by themselves. Thank you, master. Neji said happily as he and the others congratulated each other. Even to this day he still couldn't believe how good his life had been to this point. He had made good friends out of Naruto and Natsuki, and he would never change the way things turned out for him. He knew that his class was almost graduating from the Ninja Academy and that he would be placed on a team away from his friends, but he would make new ones hopefully. This was due to the agreement that Hiruzen made with Taka to form stronger bonds with the villagers, and Naruto only skipped his year because the Hokage wanted him and Natsuki to be on the same team. We will discuss and review your spar later, but right now, I have a mission for you, Natsuki. Instantly, the Jinchuriki perked up in excitement. What is it, Taka-sensei? It is time you faced your burden. The excitement the girl had previously been feeling disappeared in an instant, and she knew what their mentor was saying. The time had come for her to meet the Kyuubi no Yoko. Natsuki, what I have here is a seal that will allow you to access your subconscious. This will allow you to speak with the Kyuubi directly and, hopefully, strike a deal with him so that the two of you can work together. Do you understand? Hi, sensei. Natsuki said, hoping the brave front she was putting on hid the fear she really felt, but like always Naruto knew what she was really feeling and put a comforting hand on her shoulder. Don't be scared, Natsuki-chan. We'll be right here next to you the entire time, he said warmly to the girl, making her blush but also feel more confident. Natsuki, remember that fear is not a sign of weakness. In fact, in many cases, knowing and feeling fear is a sign of strength. Taka said while watching the Saw girl's eyes widen at this. It's true that you are about to meet one of the most powerful creatures in existence. Being afraid will make you take every precaution to keep yourself safe, and this applies to many aspects of life. Anko smiled as she placed a comforting hand atop Natsuki's head. The old man is right, Natsuki-chan. This philosophy applies not just to assassins, but to every man, woman, and child that wields power. But that's what having friends and precious people are for. They help keep you in check so that you never forget these lessons and will always be there for you," she said, ignoring the slight glare the master assassin gave her. "Now, I would also like you to do something else. Our best spies have failed to uncover anything in regards to why the Akatsuki are seeking to capture the Biju, but it is possible that the Kyuubi may know why. If he happens to be in an agreeable mood, please ask him." This time, there was no hesitation in her voice or her heart. "Hi, Taka-sensei." Finally, she would get some answers. "Excellent. Well then, good luck, Natsuki-chan." With that said, Taka slapped the seal upon her forehead and everything went black. "This is my mindscape?" Natsuki muttered, looking around the dark environment. Concrete and pipes lined the walls, but in a way that was totally foreign to the sewer systems she had explored in Konoha when she mapped out any escape routes with the other two assassins. This new underground world practically hummed with energy, as if the very walls and pipelines were alive. But at the same time, it was still kind of depressing. "My mind's cape is a sewer. I wonder if there's any way I could change the layout of this dump." Figuring she could work it out later, the assassin in training continued onwards through the tunnel that seemed endless to her. Well, what do we have here?" a voice called out when she finally reached a giant gate ahead of her. The deep voice rumbled throughout the room as a gigantic pair of crimson eyes suddenly opened up in the darkness and locked onto her. Whoa! Caught by surprise, she scrambled back as lights suddenly poured into the chamber, illuminating the prone form of the gargantuan orange demon fox with 9 majestic tails swaying behind it. "I wasn't expecting to see you so soon, at least not for a few more years at least." Taking a deep breath, Natsuki steeled her nerves and thought back to what Naruto had told her and looked straight back at her imprisoned tenant. "Hello, Kyuubi-san." The mighty creature lowered her head to get a good look at her container, not that the girl would know that she is also a female. "You're not what I expected, human." Seeing the confused look, the Kyuubi no Yoko elaborated. "Of all the things you could have been from your experiences, you chose to become an assassin. A Jinchuriki assassin, a powerful mix and one I cannot help but find myself interested in." "You know of the assassins?" "Of course I do. The assassins have existed since before the Sage of Six Paths, far before him in fact. They were known as the White Knights that struck from the shadows as if they were shadows themselves." The enormous beast replied with a grudging respect in her tone. "But enough about your chosen profession. Why are you here? No point in beating around the bush. I was hoping we could learn to work together." "Work together?" The Kyuubi thought for a moment before speaking again. "I would be willing to make a deal." She frowned a bit at that. A demon, especially the Kyuubi no Yoko, would not make deals lightly and it was common for them to twist the words to suit their ends. "What do you want?" "I'm not going to free you, if that is what you're going to ask." "Don't worry. As much as I desire my freedom, I know better than to ask. I have something else in mind." "Alright then, what do you want?" "In exchange for using my power and cooperation, you will allow me to create a mental and sensory connection with you. This will let me experience everything you do in real time and make it so that I can communicate with you. You can easily shut this off though in more personal times. I also want this sewer to be changed into something hospitable. In addition, I want a little revenge. You are to find, humiliate, and destroy the person responsible for making me attack your village." From the scattered memories I have before being sealed, this man was a part of the Akatsuki. No doubt, he is a high-ranking member and had it not been for him, I would not be locked in this prison and you would have never been left an orphan. Natsuki's eyes widened at this revelation. The Akatsuki was responsible for the Kyuubi attack 11 years ago. She was suddenly consumed with anger before she had a vision of Naruto's handsome face. He wouldn't want me to be like this at all. So she took a deep breath. I cannot let myself be consumed by anger and hatred. Throughout all this, the Kyuubi watched her host's reaction curiously. "Do we have a deal?" The assassin gazed into the Biju's eyes. "Before I agree, I would like you to answer one question first." "And what would that be?" "Do you have any idea as to why the Akatsuki want the Biju?" A low grumble sounded from the cage as the creature answered. "A wise question, one I do not have any problems in answering. The truth is that there are many possibilities, each more foolish than the last. But if the Akatsuki are collecting demons for our demonic energy or yoki, then I'd imagine they are seeking to reform the Jubi." "The Jubi, what?" "Before the 9-tailed demons that the world knows of today we were all one single entity. Every one of our personalities was combined and all of our yoki combined into one single being. The 10-tailed demon. Its power was 100 times stronger than me and was said to be unbeatable. That was until the Sage of Six Paths finally stopped it with the gift he was given, the Rinnegan and some natural energy too. Wait, what do you mean by natural energy? What is natural energy? Natsuki asked. Natural energy is everywhere. It flows in the air, the water, and the very earth itself. It is the chakra of the world, the essence of nature itself, and because it is everywhere, techniques that utilizes this power will also attempt to use the energy existing around them to sustain themselves. But know this. Just because a technique is self-sustainable to a degree does not mean that it will last indefinitely. You would be wise to remember that. Also know that you may never be able to use it, however, as with me here the mixing of the chakra would be too unstable for you. Natsuki nodded, a bit depressed at that, but knew that such advice could not be ignored. Despite her initial caution, the Kyuubi was not mean at all, and she knew that if she died so did the Kyuubi, so that may have helped the demon decide on what to do. Now then, as I was saying, imagine the possibilities of using the 10-tailed beast on the world. The massive beast then leaned forward, looking directly into her shadowed eyes with one of her own to emphasize the next point. The entire world could be crushed easily, and it would take a very long time to find someone as strong as the Sage of Six Paths to seal the demon again, and that's if anyone could ever reach that man's potential. Wow, she muttered in awe at that. Such power and potential, she really didn't know what to think. The things she was hearing were simply incredible and downright unbelievable. Indeed, if the Akatsuki are seeking to find and combine us all together once again, then accomplishing their goals would be a trifle matter. Now, I have answered your questions. What say you? Do we have a deal? The mighty Biju asked, pushing one claw through the bars. If you are agreed, press your hand against mine and the link will be made. Hi, we have a deal, Kyuubi. As soon as the words left her mouth, she felt a jolt of volatile and immensely powerful yoki course through her as the connection was forged between vessel and host. There, the link has been established. Now you can leave while I rest. All of a sudden, she was back and she blinked, trying to clear the haze that shrouded her mind. Natsuki-chan, are you okay? Naruto asked here, worriedly, making her blush again. Blinking once more, she tried focusing on the blurred images before her. The concerned eyes of her sensei, her crazy sensei, the Hokage himself, Neji, but most importantly Naruto, became clear. Sensei? Anko sensei, Gigi? A smile spread across all of their faces as they helped the girl into a sitting position. Were you able to speak to the Kyuubi? Taka asked after finding she was alright. Hi, and he told me so much. The Hokage and Taka shared a look before they spoke. Tell us everything. Early morning sunlight peeked through the windows of Natsuki's window as she awoke to the sounds of singing birds. What a beautiful day, she thought, smiling happily as she started her morning routine. It had been several days since her conversation with the Kyuubi no Yoko, and the information revealed had been far more than either Taka or the Hokage had expected, and the thought of the Akatsuki, or anyone really, possessing the power of natural energy and demonic energy combined, was absolutely terrifying. It had both elders pushing her and the other two assassins even harder. Almost every waking moment was devoted to training, pushing them past their recently discovered physical limits and bringing them to even greater heights. But even she needed her breaks, and that's where these peaceful mornings came in. Nothing but relaxing silence. A knock interrupted her thoughts as Taka spoke from outside her door. Natsuki, when you are finished, please meet me and the others outside in the garden. Hi. Some minutes later the teacher and students were seated outside in the courtyard garden. It was a beautiful scene, filled with lush grass, vibrant cherry blossoms, black pebble stones, and a trickling stream that ended at a pond inhabited with koi fish. This relaxing garden was one Naruto and her frequently spent time in during their occasional breaks. However, today it would serve a different purpose. Now, today you will all learn an integral part of the assassin's repertoire. We live in the era of shinobi, where impossible feats are performed daily. Superior as we may be in conventional combat, our training in chakra compared to the ninja's practice of chakra is not so good, and it has since given our enemies the advantage. Taka then fixed his disciples with a stern gaze. Remember this, Naruto, Natsuki, Neji. The assassins are not invincible. We are mortal like any other man or woman, and our powers, while great, can be overcome. They all nodded seriously, waiting for their master to continue. Our disadvantage has forced the assassins to adapt. We could use chakra, but part of our strength lies in using techniques and abilities relatively unknown to the public and their prevailing military systems. This naturally limits our choices considerably, but we did eventually find our way, Taka said, pausing for dramatic effect. Tell me, Natsuki, what do you know about chakra? I know chakra is made of the combination of the physical and spiritual energies within us. And that every person has their own elemental affinity. A basic answer, but correct in essence. Now, tell me this. Are there other sources of chakra besides what we produce inside our bodies? Aren't the biju made out of chakra? Yes, they are. In fact, all demons are simply corporeal masses of yoki, which is the technical term for demonic chakra. Their brand of energy is different from human chakra. It is much more volatile and potent, and it also possesses the unique quality of being tangible. Now, can you think of anything else? She paused at this. Clearly, the mentor was implying that another source of energy existed in their world, but what was it? The Kyuubi mentioned something about the energy of the world. Natural energy, I think. She said. Correct, Taka said proudly. Yes, like yoki, it is an extremely powerful source of energy and can strengthen the user's body and techniques to frightening degrees. However, there is one aspect of harnessing natural chakra that has proven invaluable to the assassins in this era of shinobi. Stealth. Seeing the confused looks on the apprentices' faces, Taka explained. As you know, every human needs chakra to survive. As such, those adept at sensing chakra can easily locate the most skilled of assassins. Obviously, this puts us at a severe disadvantage. We also know that the Akatsuki currently have several powerful shinobi among their ranks, many of them being S-ranked missing nin. If you wish to defeat them, mastering your skills in stealth is essential. This is where natural chakra comes in. Today, there are only a handful of shinobi who utilize natural energy. They are generally taught how to enter a powerful state known as sage mode by whatever animal summons they happen to have a contract with and are judged worthy. Hashirama Senju was a man that was known to be able to do this without a summon, but I think that would have to do with his wood release ability making him closer to nature. I believe Naruto will have the easiest time with this if my theory is correct. He said and got an excited grin for the young man. Now, Sage Mode is a state that balances a user's spiritual and physical energies with natural energy. The result is the empowerment of the user's abilities and they essentially become one with nature. This means that their chakra presence literally becomes indistinguishable from the environment, rendering them invisible to sensors. Discretion is paramount in our profession, and it is due to this power that we can walk the streets of any shinobi village undetected. We are seen, yet at the same time, unseen. That is amazing, Naruto said in awe at what he had been told from the master. Neji and Natsuki were thinking similar things as well and couldn't even speak at all. This is why all assassins practice the art of harnessing natural energy. Not only did it serve to give us the titles as Masters of Stealth against the shinobi, but it also gave us a physical boost in combat. In addition, all of the secret assassin techniques are powered by natural energy instead of regular chakra, making it impossible for most shinobi to copy our techniques. Taka then fixed his gleaming eyes on them, almost mesmerizing them with the passion in his words. Learning this art has now become an integral part of our training. It is one of our pillars of strength and it would be very important to learn to harness the energy of the world. Hi. They responded together, still in awe at the words they were told. Actually, the Kyuubi said that I won't be able to use it because with him the mixing of all the energies would be too unstable. Natsuki spoke up a bit depressed at missing out on such a good skill for her. I suppose that makes sense. Well, I suppose you will still be extremely good at stealth in the first part at least. Smiling proudly, the elderly assassin looked at the others. Now, first things first. If you want to absorb and use natural energy, you must first be able to sense it. This will take weeks, if not months to learn, as you need to be completely still. He said before elaborating more. Let me explain. From a worldly viewpoint, nature is always still and only moves when subjected to outside forces like wind, animals and things of that sort. Animals like us, on the other hand, are never still. Every breath we take moves our body. Every beat of our heart is movement. Our thoughts trigger minute reactions all over our body. To be perfectly still is to learn how to counter our unconscious movements and clear our mind. That is exceedingly difficult. In fact, immobility is perhaps the most difficult thing an animal could ever attempt to do, and it just so happened to be a requirement toward learning how to use natural energy. Okay. While Neji got the gist of it, he really didn't understand everything Taka had just said, but Naruto had and inwardly chuckled at him. The master assassin merely chuckled. We'll discuss it more later. For now, I want you to actually try sensing natural energy. First, place your hands on mine and I will absorb and channel some natural energy into you so that you'll know what to look for when trying to sense it. I will also be controlling it as well so that it does not adversely affect you. Hi. Silence ensued for a small time and at first, nothing happened. Taka-sen? Then it happened. All of a sudden, an indescribable sensation washed over them. It was unlike anything they had ever felt before. It felt so primal, so connected, they could hear the slightest sounds around them, smell the faintest scents, and even see their reflections off a cricket's compound eyes. And their bodies had never felt so strong before. Awesome! Naruto exclaimed, marveling at the power that coursed through his body. This is amazing. A wry smile spread across Taka's face. Yes, harnessing the energy of nature does make one's body stronger in every way. But remember what I said. Even when using natural energy, we are not invincible. Naruto and Neji just nodded as they still felt the feeling of nature around them, and it soon ended when Taka brought stop the energy. Now, try to feel the natural energy flowing around you. I taught you how to meditate, so now, simply do it without moving and reach out with your senses. He makes it sound so easy. They thought with deadpan stares at him. Nevertheless, they did as asked and promptly settled down in a meditative position. Naruto first focused on his breathing, making sure each breath was even, smooth, and had minimized movement. It wasn't easy, but after about 5 minutes, he was relatively still. Next, he attempted to clear his mind, but this proved to be the more difficult task. For someone who was naturally a bit hyperactive, trying to stay still and silent his active mind was borderline impossible. Just the slightest noise was enough to distract him, like, what was that? It sounded like a cricket. Whack! Itai! Naruto cried, clutching his head in pain and glaring at the offending cane in his mentor's hand, while Neji also stirred as well and was treated to the same thing. What was that for Taka-sensei? You moved. What? No, I didn't. Yes, you did. A cricket chirped 22 feet to my left and your ear twitched at the sound. He decided that he wouldn't argue with the mentor for this and got back to work. Now try again. Whack! Itai! You moved again. What did I just say? He said with a bit of mock anger, this time aimed at Neji. Again. But, again. Whack! Itai! It was an early morning within the assassin's compound, 2 years later, with Taka being able to somehow hide his approaching death from his students. At least that was what he thought, as they all could tell that the man was dying, and while they were incredibly sad, they knew that they wanted to improve and be made assassins before he passed away. Taka was seated outside with a cup of tea in hand, critically observing his disciples form as they maneuvered through an obstacle course. At this point, Naruto was now 15 years old, Neji was 14 years old, and Natsuki was 13 years old. Neji had been put on a team of ninja under the tutelage of a man named Meita-Guy, and they had been a team for 1 year as a genin, but he was ultimately an assassin before anything. It was now almost time for Natsuki and Naruto to become genin and be placed on a team as well, and after all their years of training, their skills had grown by leaps and bounds. Their knowledge was ever expanding, and Naruto was a master of all aspects of an assassin, with Natsuki and Neji not far behind him. Due to the importance of the wood-release bloodline, Naruto was also tasked to master that with what little scrolls the Hokage had and some help from another Anbu that was trusted by him to teach him it. Taka knew that under the guidelines of the Brotherhood, they all could now be formally inducted into their ranks as real assassins, and he also knew that his time was just about up and Naruto would be made the new mentor. But, was he ready for that? The elderly master assassin knew that it wasn't right to have such doubts and that he had made a wise choice for the next mentor. Naruto, Natsuki, Neji, it is time, he finally said. The assassins in training immediately stopped their exercises with eyes widened in shock. Sensei, are you sane? Naruto asked in surprise and a bit of horror, knowing that the old man was close to death. Yes, I am. You are ready to fully enter the Brotherhood. Taka responded with pride while giving Naruto some new robes. See me at the Hokage monument later tonight. Hi. They all replied while Naruto saw his new robes in his eyes, and so did Neji's and Natsuki's. The new robes were completely black, signaling him as the next Grand Master of the Assassin's Brotherhood. Sometime later, Taka was found patiently waiting for his disciples beside a cackling fire that had been set up with a pair of tongs inside of it with the end a red color from the heat. Behind him appeared the three new assassins, with the only one that was different was Naruto. Instead of his spotless white robes, he now wore pitch black robes, and the cape he wore was black as well, but everything else was the same. What are the core tenets of the creed? Taka asked them calmly. Stay your blade from the flesh of the innocent, hide in plain sight, and never compromise the brotherhood. They spoke clearly and softly all together. Taka looked on in complete pride at them and some sadness, as he knew he would not make it to the next day. Congratulations, you passed all of the tests that I have given you and have progressed quickly. Now come here and allow me to carry out the last part of the induction. Where other men blindly follow the truth. Remember, nothing is true. Where other men are limited by morality or law. Remember, everything is permitted. We work in the dark to serve the light. We are assassins. Taka said to them seriously and saw that they all understood. Now, as a final act of commitment to the brotherhood, present your ring finger so you may be branded as one of us. Taking out the tongs from the fire, he walked up and branded a small assassin symbol into the skin of their ring fingers. Taka nodded approvingly. Excellent. Now, do you understand the position that you are in? He asked specially to Naruto. I'm sure you have all seen it by now, but I will not make it another day, I can feel it. The new assassins lowered their heads at this. Naruto is now the Grand Master of the Assassin's Brotherhood and will now hold full responsibility to our creed and its regrowth. It will take many more assassins to fully defeat the Templars, or the Akatsuki as they are now called. You will need more members. I understand, Taka-sensei. Naruto said while the others nodded as well. I will induct more members and train them in our ways. I swear it, he said passionately. In training, you have proven yourselves eager to learn the pillars of our creed. In this ceremony, you have shown your understanding of the meaning behind it. Welcome Naruto Uzumaki, Natsuki Uzumaki, Neji Hyuga to the Assassin Order. Welcome to the Brotherhood. Then the elderly master assassin gazed into his ex-disciple's eyes. You've made me proud, very proud. Now complete the induction ceremony and perform your leap of faith. Taka said and watched as the three fearlessly jumped from the high monument and landed in a bay of hay. The next day was pretty tough on the three newly branded assassins, as just like Taka had said, he passed away that night due to old age and sickness. They were all sad, but they knew it was to be expected with the elderly. Naruto and Natsuki were now headed over to the Hokage's office to get a team, as Neji already had one and was with them now. Hiruzen Sarutobi sat quietly in his office, smoking a pipe of tobacco as he studied the topmost file in a stack of classified documents. With a flourish, he signed the paper, placed the document in the outgoing tray, and looked up to see a newly minted assassin grandmaster and another assassin suddenly standing before him. A proud smile spread across the elderly shinobi's lips, even as he discreetly dismissed his hidden guards. Ah, Naruto-kun, Natsuki-chan, Sarutobi said, taking in their appearance. I see that you have been given the title of the next Grand Master after the passing of Taka. I'm sorry for the loss, he was a good friend of mine in the time he spent here. He said sadly as they both nodded in thanks. The young Grand Master smiled proudly and a bit sadly under his mask and hood before bowing respectfully. Hokage-sama, I was informed that you were to tell me something about our place in the village. Hi, we have some things to discuss. He said, your integration into our shinobi forces and the privileges you gain under your title are. You have the right to refuse and or abort any missions if, and only if, they cause a direct conflict with the Assassin Brotherhood and its principles. You will be given a rank but will not have to take orders if it goes against your creed. You will be able to increase your rank as well, just like a ninja would. You are also granted indefinite leave without worry of repercussions. However, it is still highly advised that you inform me and your teacher first before any departures, and not just for official reasons. He said to him, getting nods in return. Also, while you are not required to report to me, I believe that the sharing of any information regarding the Akatsuki, especially if it involves enemy agents within the village, would be beneficial to both parties. After all, I do not wish to detain and execute you for unlawful murder without evidence or forewarning to protect you. Remember, just because you are an assassin does not exempt you from this country's laws. Lastly, as you are the last person to have the wood release bloodline and the last known male of the Uzumaki clan, you are able to take the CRA law as well, meaning you can take multiple wives. You don't have to, but it wouldn't be against the rules for you to do so. Now, do you understand the terms that I have put forth, Naruto Uzumaki, Grand Master of the Assassin Brotherhood? Hiruzen said as he ended his speech with an amused tone as he could feel the anger radiating off Natsuki and the shock off of Naruto. I do, Hokage-sama. As an assassin, I am forbidden from affiliating myself with any one village, but I will forever fight to preserve this country and its people's peace. I will have to think about the multiple wives thing as well, he said with an awkward smile as he noticed Natsuki's anger skyrocket. Excellent. Then I welcome you, Naruto Uzumaki and Natsuki Uzumaki, to the shinobi forces of Konoha. Sarutobi said with a smile. I already have a sensei in mind for you and Natsuki, but the year has not yet ended, so you will be joining them until the end, which is only a month or two. Hi, Hokage-sama, they said and got the needed information and left to their classroom. Are you serious right now? Natsuki yelled out as soon as they left the Hokage's office. You are not going to have multiple wives, are you, ya pervert? Why does it matter to you? Besides, I have to recreate the Uzumaki clan and I could spread the wood release, he said to her as he thought about reviving the clan. I don't want you to have more than one wife. I want to, she yelled but stopped herself before she went too far and blushed. It was too bad that Naruto caught on to what she was saying. He had also been having feelings for Natsuki as well, but never thought that she would like him back. Are you saying what I think you're saying? Naruto questioned while looking at her and seeing her look away from him. You wanted to be with me? Shoo, shut up, idiot, she said, but suddenly hugged him tightly, stopping their rooftop running. I have liked you ever since we first met. Ever since you helped me and then you brought me into the order and saved me. How could I not fall for you? She said softly while burying her head into his shoulder in embarrassment. Wow, I never thought you would ever return my feelings for you, but I still want to revive the clan. I promise that I will treat all of you equally if you'll allow that, he said softly, not seeing her eyes widen or her blush deepen at him returning her feelings. She was overjoyed at that, but she was still a bit miffed that he would still be taking more than one wife. If you swear that you will love us all equally, then I guess that it won't be so bad. I want the clan to be rebuilt also, you know, but I'm first. Do you understand? She said menacingly, even while blushing, which dulled the effects a bit, but he nodded anyway. Good, now let's get to this class already. They then began running on the rooftops again, leaving Naruto alone to his thoughts. Alright class, settle down. Iruka, the Chunin teacher of the class Naruto and Natsuki were about to report, it said. Now I know the course is almost over, but, he began but was cut off when two people entered the classroom. One heavily armored boy that was also well armed and a less armored girl next to him, both with hoods on, while the male had a red face mask so you couldn't see any of his face under the hood. Are you Iruka? The boy asked while ignoring the girls who blushed brightly at seeing an even more mysterious boy than Sasuke. Yes, Iruka responded. What can I do for you? Naruto went up and gave him the slip of paper he was handed by the Hokage and waited for the man to read it. The class just watched the boy who the girls all seemed immediately enamored with, while the boys scoffed at him and decided to watch Iruka. Iruka, however, was stunned at what he was reading. 2 new students would be joining his class this late by the Hokage's law. I wonder who they are to get such a privilege, he thought while nodding his head. Alright class, these are going to be your new students for the rest of the year. The kids in the class were stunned at these people coming into the class so late. Just as they were about to yell out, the boy stepped forward. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, he said inside a bit as the girls all had hearts in their eyes, but he did focus on a pink-haired girl who seemed curious and hesitant. He thought she was very beautiful, but Natsuki saw this and elbowed him in the side in anger, as even if she said she was alright with it, she didn't know if she was completely ready yet. And I'm Natsuki Uzumaki, she said, and the guys didn't really pay too much attention to her as they were still stunned that they could skip the entire academy and still get in for the ending tests. What? How come these two can just waltz in here like they own the place and just skip everything we had to do? A kid with a dog on his head whined to the teacher. It was the Hokage's orders, Kiba. Iruka said, "You two can sit wherever you want." Just when it looked like Kiba would complain again, a voice interrupted him. "Quiet, Kiba Baka. If the Hokage said so, you have to listen," the pink-haired girl said as she eyed the boy. She was always trying to get Sasuke, but he never returned her feelings anyways, and now she was curious about this Naruto Uzumaki. "I'm Sakura Haruno, it's nice to meet you," she said to him as he came up the rows. "Nice to meet you, Sakura. May we sit next to you?" he asked as he could tell she was really smart and he thought that they may need to catch up in the class. She blushed a light pink and nodded a bit meekly while he chuckled at her cute look for a second. Natsuki decided not to completely explode until she knew the girl, so they also exchanged greetings and she found she was not so bad. The class went on for a while and Naruto had gotten more curious about the pink-haired girl Sakura. She was very nice and was also very cute looking. She also gave them all the names of the kids in the class and described the jutsus that were required to pass the class with, as they haven't really studied them too much. He could tell that Natsuki was eyeing him the whole time and must have thought that he had a crush on the girl as she glared at him a bit, but she seemed to move on later in the class and made a decent friendship with the girl. He could tell the girl wasn't very good at the physical things, but that interested him a bit as he could tell she was becoming more serious since they started to talk. Maybe he could bring her into the brotherhood. After all, her not knowing anything about fighting would allow him to start from scratch and not have to shake any bad habits of her style. For Sakura, she was having a tough time focusing on the lesson completely as she was having weird feelings for the hooded boy next to her. She could see his beautiful blue eyes, but only glimpses of them, and she was extremely curious about what his face looked like too. What she didn't know was that his voice was like honey to her and it made her feel all warm inside when he talked to her. Not to mention the fact that he complimented her quite often, something that really didn't happen to her much as she was made fun of as a kid. These next few months would prove to be very interesting for her as she just couldn't get enough of the boy next to her. She just had to watch the girl who was dressed similarly to him, just with white and not black. She didn't want to be outdone after all, and if that meant training physically from now on, then that is what she would do.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.